Good morning. Welcome to EMS Office Hours. I am Jim Hoffman,
And I'm Dave Brenner.
and Dave is joining me today. We are a Josh-less show today.
Jossless.
Josh-less show today. Just wanted to jump on here and with you, Dave, and just talk about some of the recent headlines that are going on out there. Um, Anything going on with you these days? Any housekeeping?
I'm a bit, I'm a busy guy. I
Yeah.
got a lot of swimming to do, but I'm going to a lot of conferences coming up.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. All local in the
A
New
lot.
York area or what?
Yeah, no. Well, two of them. One's in New York. One's up in Syracuse, the New York State Vital Signs. One's in Connecticut, the EMS Pro, which is terrific.
Okay.
It's huge. And
Yeah.
one's not very local at all. I'm going to the one in Anchorage in
Oh wow.
November. Very excited about that.
Is
Hey,
it
give
cold
me one
there?
second. I'm going to turn on a light because it looks like I'm sitting in the dark. I'm back.
That was
That
fast.
looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. I have
Yeah.
a nice light. I have a nice light for the podcast, but it's got the glass is screwed up because it's got that ring, the big bright ring,
I,
you know, and
it's
it's
hardly
made to do
noticeable.
what's that?
It's hardly noticeable on my end.
No, I don't have it on now.
So
If I put it
you're
on, I have
saying
like
you have
I've
a
got white circles
not
from the ring of the light showing in my face. So I haven't been able to navigate and figure out how to get rid of that too quick. But what I wanted to do today, Dave, is to just talk about some of the things that I've been seeing a lot on social media and um, you know Facebook and whatnot. And one of them that kind of struck me, and I don't know if you've heard about this thing where in New York City, the mayor there is gonna give these delivery drivers, these app-based delivery workers. I'm guessing things like DoorDash and Postmates and stuff like that, um, up to almost $20 an hour, uh, which is about a dollar or so more than EMTs make for FTNY there. Um, and I read the article, and it was like not only they're getting like this big jump. Like right now, they're making I think like $7 or something like that an hour, and they're going to get a jump up
yeah.
to almost $18 an hour right away. And then this
Right.
$20 an hour thing is going to happen when in 2005, I believe, is when they're going to do that. And there's lots of
225.
comments going on, from you know EMS folks out there who are talking about how they, a little frustrated that delivery workers are going to be making more than them. Um, and that it appears that the higher ups there in New York City are more concerned about the people getting their pizza and bagels than they are getting you know EMS care.
Yeah.
Uh, but I want to get your take on it, Dave. But one thing I want to mention is that I looked online and New York City I think it's like the fourth highest paid EMTs in the country out of the states. I looked at how much states pay their EMTs, and
Right.
um, the EMTs in New York get about like $51,000 a year. They're number four that I can see in their ranking, and number one is New Jersey, believe it or not. And then you got Connecticut, I think, and I want to say Maine or Massachusetts or something like that is number three, but they're number four. So when it comes to the EMS salary, New York EMT is doing pretty good considering the rest of the country, what the rest of the country gets paid, as an EMT. So you get that. I mean, we've talked about pay in EMS like crazy on this show in the past a bunch of times, and
Sure.
it almost gets to that point where it's like, okay, well, what's the cap on it? You know what I mean? Where's the cap on how much they should make starting out? Like getting into the job. I mean, these days, I'm sure most people they should research what the pay is as an EMT, or a paramedic when they're getting into this field, and not be surprised that they're not making as much as other jobs out there. $20 an hour to deliver DoorDash or whatever. It's pretty damn good, considering. You know, but I don't know what the standard of salary should be for EMTs. I guess some states are less than others because of the demand for services. In New York City, that very very high, call volume there, and so I guess it does warrant a certain increase in pay than maybe other parts of the country would get as well. But again, where is the cap on that? Where does it, kind of, you know, cut off where people say, okay, well now I can't complain anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, I think this is a multifaceted discussion. One is trying to compare it to another profession, and the guys who are delivering, from Grubhub or whatever, to make $17-18 an hour. They don't get benefits with that. I don't believe they're not getting a pension. They get no health benefits. $17-18 an hour on a 40-hour week.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of money.
And that's something I think that a lot of people don't take into consideration. I know that that one of the things I know, like I think FDNY does when they show their recruitment posters and stuff like that, they say how much people are going to make per year, and that includes almost like built-in overtime, the benefits you're getting, your sick days, your holidays. So they, that $51,000 can be, more like 60,000, 70,000. You know what I mean? Because they kind of bend all the benefits.
Well, the benefits are usually 1/3 of the salary.
Yeah.
Just having if you try to buy health benefits just for a single person living in New York City, haven't done it in a long while, but I remember when my son was doing it, back 17, 18 years ago, it was $14,000 a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So if you're getting health benefits as part of the fire department in New York or Presbyterian Hospital or whatever hospital you're working for, you can't disregard that. I don't know what health benefits they're getting at Grubhub. I'm just saying. I'm not putting down
you make
Grubhub.
A great point though, and that's I don't see when I see a lot of the people that are commenting on this in social media and stuff. It's like that's not really, sort of addressed. I know the one article that I saw, it does mention that. It says, that the minimum wage for those workers, the delivery workers, it doesn't talk about the fact that they don't have health insurance and other benefits, right? Like the FDNY members have. The article mentions it, but a lot of people that comment sort of gloss over that part and sort of get, insulted that drivers are making more than them. The same thing with the minimum wage thing. With McDonald's workers are going to make more than EMTs and stuff, and people getting upset, about that type of thing, without taking into consideration, I think the fact that the benefits you get when you're working for the city or even one of the hospitals, through the unions and all, are pretty good benefits, which should offset the fact that the Grubhub person is going to be making maybe $1 more in 2025.
Now, having said that, many EMTs are not working for FIDNY, the fire department in New York, or not working full-time in hospitals that are giving them full benefits. And some of them are just working, like many of the people I know are working part-time in 5, 6, 7 different employers,
Mm-hmm.
trying to do a 911 response, and they're not getting any. Well, they get a pension because they're part time in the municipal system,
Right.
but they're not getting any benefits. They're not getting any health benefits. They're working
But they
50,
have
60, 70,
several
80 hours a week.
jobs. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know. I mean, listen. When I was a young, wee little lad in EMS, I would be working, 2, 3 jobs, to make more money, and it was especially after paramedic school. I was so used to working a lot and going to school that I kind of stayed on that same track when I graduated. And I had the full time medic job, then I had 2 part time jobs, and you just keep you get in that mode of working so much, and you're making decent money doing that, and there's some flexibility schedule wise as well. But like you said, if you don't have a full time job and you're working 3, 4 per diem or part time jobs, you're not really getting the benefits, you know, that a full time worker would be getting. Um, so I
And
don't know.
then there's the natural comparison that we are, comparing it to a person who's flipping burgers, and there's nothing wrong with flipping burgers, is not the real comparison. The real comparison that needs to be made is comparing it to the other three big institutions in civil service: police department, FIDME, and the sanitation department. And and listen, all of them work hard. All of them were around during collective bargaining that worked out really fabulously for municipal employees. I was a teacher back then. I watched my salary explode back then. I started out in the city. I was getting $9,600 a year. Woohoo! I was rich, and things changed since then.
Right.
By the way, for those of you trying to do the math, that was 1973 when I was getting $9,600 a year from New York City as a teacher. But yeah, EMS wasn't around then as an organization.
Yeah.
And had they been, because they're still the new kids on the block. They're new in medicine compared to nurses, and they're new in civil service compared to the big three
Yeah.
that I just named. And
Yeah.
it's going to always be hard for them to catch up unless somebody were to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, we need to evaluate what we're doing. And you're going to hear me say this, and I know you've heard me say this before. If you're an EMT in New York State, you can be replaced by a 17-year-old who just graduated high school.
Yeah.
That's what it takes to be an EMT in New York State.
Yeah.
I've taught high school-based EMT classes. They graduate and they are ready to replace you.
Yeah. I actually saw an advertisement for EMT classes that are going on in Staten Island. And it was like, you get on this class and you'll hit the streets in 4 weeks. You be hitting the streets. I'm like,
they're begging for food. But
yeah, I'm not sure what hit the streets means, but you're not going to be on an ambulance running 911 calls. But there is that possibility, though, because of the fact that you said it ends up being the thing that Josh talks about a lot of, which is organizations and stuff just wanting to have a butt in the seat, so they'll let the experienced provider go and hire the new person that'll take less money, right? And maybe a little bit more enthusiastic for the job at the time, and then let the guy that's got some experience, go if they're not happy. So I mean,
let me go a little beyond that. I just want to drop just a little beyond that. If you can be replaced as an EMT by a 17-year-old in New York State, you can be replaced by an 18-year-old paramedic in New York State.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's true though, but with
a high school diploma.
Yeah, that's the thing, and then that goes back to another can of worms you could open up there, Dave, about the college education requirement to be, a paramedic type thing and not being hired Unless you
They
are. But
are
then
coming, just to be crystal clear. They're coming.
I think they are, but I think part of the problem is what you had just said, is that it's so easy to replace people now because they don't necessarily have that college degree. And I think there are you hear about the shortage of EMS workers and all, but it's not really a shortage of workers; it's a shortage of people looking to do the job because of the the call volume and salaries and stuff like that. So people who were in
And the
EMS,
inherent danger.
yes, and people who were in EMS, especially during COVID, that went out and didn't go back. You've got a lot of these empty spots that are there. So that turns into, like you said, about the younger people that are just coming in, being able to get a job without a lot of experience and willing to take that job. Um, and with that said, I want to talk about this other subject, which it kind of ties in a little bit from what I'm seeing is in New York as well, in Staten Island. They had a unit there that worked on the like the far side of
Staten
Staten
Island.
Island, and apparently that they are shutting that unit down, and they're going to let FDNY fill that hole. Same thing, the call the call volume for that area where that ambulance is covering from the hospital there, Staten Island University Hospital, where it was covering, they weren't getting a lot of calls. The unit was just sitting there all night, not doing anything. And I guess financially, the hospital was like, okay, we can't keep this up, you know. And then they ended up closing that up. And now it comes into play, what is FDNY going to do? I don't think that there's going to be this empty hole in an area where you're going to have a unit from Fidney covering that area, uh, coming from the tip of Brooklyn or something, or the other side of Staten Island, where the response time is going to be 15 minutes or more to get to a call on the far end of Staten Island, the Jersey sort of side of Staten Island. Um, because you still have the response time, you still have the emergencies that are going to happen. Uh, so I wonder, how much of an effect it's really going to have on patient care and response, versus just it's going to have more of an effect on FDNY having now to supply this ambulance and personnel now to cover that the hospital is providing and paying for beforehand, you know. Um, So I don't know. I mean, I've seen that happen many times where ambulances will close down, and either Finney steps in and covers those areas, or another voluntary hospital will put ambulances out to cover that. Now, Staten Island, you don't really have a lot of voluntary hospitals to fill those gaps, but like in Brooklyn, I know that the hospitals have closed in Brooklyn, and either another hospital puts units out, taking that opportunity to fill that gap, or they let Finney fill the gap. You know, um, I mean, the one thing that I see in the article was that the Finney higher ups, with the union people at Finney, are like, well, this is sort of our argument that all of New York should be run by FDNY personnel, uniformed, EMTs and paramedics from FDNY, and not the hospitals. But I think that in theory, that's a great idea, right? To have one entity handling, one agency handling all 911 calls, but the cost of it that these hospitals pick up, the city doesn't have to pay, right, to run ambulances and personnel. And then we talked about before benefits and all that stuff, equipment, everything. I think that price tag would be crazy if FDNY ever tried to do the entire city.
Now, I'm not sure that FDNY has demonstrated that they are the masters of EMS response because they've never worked alone. They've always had the volunteer hospitals.
Yeah.
Always. It's always been side by side. Now, as far as I can remember, maybe I'm wrong, but I think. But I think when you look at the article about this Staten Island thing, Staten Island is not that they've isolated themselves. I think probably the Ice Age did that. It's an island. It's an island. It doesn't have the population density that, like certainly downtown Brooklyn, Manhattan, and even Queens has.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the fluidity that one person, that a unit can respond easily from an adjoining area. It doesn't have that. And when one determines that they're going to live in such a place, they end up with different kinds of services than you would get if you were in Manhattan. How many trauma centers are there in Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx?
Sure.
In order to sustain a trauma center, and I'll back it up eventually to ambulances, you have to have volume. You can't have 24/7 trauma surges sitting in my perspective. I'm going to get, because I'm on Long Island, which is also an island, that we have a North Fork with Eastern Long Island Hospital, a very small, very local hospital, which could never sustain a trauma center. Never. It could never sustain having to have that staff. It can't be a STEMI center. It doesn't have the volume. It can't be a stroke center. It doesn't have the volume. You can't sustain it. Now, the question of whether or not they can sustain an ambulance in this. Now, and I'm going to just say this. I'm not the most familiar with Staten Island, probably because it wasn't connected to the other boroughs I grew up with. And I couldn't afford, although I did love the Staten Island ferry back when I was dating my wife. We used to go back and forth. It was a cheap date. I think it cost me $0.25. Yeah. But you know, it wasn't an easily accessed area, and people enjoy that. People living on Shelter Island know that if one or two ambulances are gone, they're going to wait and wait and wait and wait. People on Fire Island know that's going to be the case.
Because they understood that when they moved there, right?
I think it's part of the decision-making process.
Once they got there, they realized that.
I don't know that people think about that. People don't think about emergencies. Maybe they think about transportation a bit. Maybe they think about schools. Maybe they like where they live because it's not connected to the other places they don't want to live in. You know, I can't say that. But when you move to a place that's relatively rural with a lower population density, this is what comes with it, is a difference in services. Yeah. Because you can't sustain it.
You make a good point too about, being in, Staten Island versus Brooklyn and Queens and stuff. It is hard to just send a unit from someplace else to cover a particular area or respond to a call on a separate side. You don't have as many highways. You don't have these streets that don't necessarily interconnect like they do in Brooklyn, where everything is kind of a grid. Makes it much easier to respond if you're coming from a further distance. There's many highways and bridges you can jump on to get to the place. I mean, 9/11, I was in Brooklyn during 9/11, and we responded. We were right by the tunnel, so we were right there. Under 10 minutes, you get to Manhattan, right? Whereas you talk about Staten Island, it would take almost
at rush hour.
Yeah, forget it. That expressway is a nightmare.
Or the Verrazano Bridge.
Yeah.
In the evening rush hour, how are you going to get there?
Right.
Or on a Friday evening when people are trying to get away and they're going through there.
Yeah. I know this guy on Facebook makes a good point talking about the pay a little bit. That the job description demands better compensation. And I find that funny because it's in a lot of ways he's right. Right, when you read the job description of an EMT or a paramedic, it looks like you are the shit. You are
Yeah.
doing. You know what I mean? And then you start doing a job and you realize there's some realities to that job description that is not in there. You know, um, but the responsibility that they describe in a lot of these job descriptions are really truly are. It sounds like you are responsible for a lot of things, and in essence, you really are when it comes to the care you're giving and all that. So I don't know, Dave. I feel like that it's just hard. This is the thing. I've been trying to get away from talking about pay in EMS because it really is a thing that we just go around in circles with this type of thing. You know
Well, I'm
what I
going to
mean?
tell you that I've noticed lately that the pay in EMS is going up, not across the board, but there are places, there are opportunities in EMS where pay has gone up. Um, it's interesting. I'm aware of a hospital out by me, Stony Brook, which was hiring paramedics, and I think in the night shift they're making, not that again, you got to take it in perspective. I think they're making close to $80,000 a year
Mm,
to start, which is compared to what's going on out there, that might be really good. There is a private agency, and I know the name, but I'm not going to say the name because I'm not looking to do anybody's advertising. But their primary purpose is to distribute organs, not like pianos, not like this thing in the background I got here,
right, right,
but
right.
livers and corneas and kidneys and hearts,
Hmm.
where they're hiring paramedics, and the paramedics are getting over $100,000 a year to do this, and I think that's really good. It's a good thing, and you know what? The medics I know are taking after their 40-hour week. If they're not getting overtime at that place, which clearly the overtime would be better than they would be getting working for one of the local
Hmm.
volunteer hospitals or Fidney or the ambulance fire departments on the island. Uh, what they're doing is they're working for the fire departments 1 day a week to keep their EMS skills up, because maybe that's why they went into it in the first place. Maybe it helps them with their refresher, because we're not starting IVs on livers, we're not intubating a
Yeah,
kidney. Um,
yeah, yeah.
all the reasons that they became a paramedic are still inherent in these folks. And if they're doing it 1 day a week, maybe all of the stuff that was bad and burdening us doesn't seem to hurt as much when you do it 1 day a week and you're making $110,000
Yeah.
from
I
your
knew
other gig.
I knew a guy that he used to do the podcast with me years ago, and he um he started doing that with the organs. He was a paramedic,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure. I don't think he's. I don't know if he's still doing it now, but he would talk about how he liked being able to be a paramedic on the ambulance, sort of part time, but his full time gig was doing the organ stuff. The organ transport stuff, and back then I was like, wow, that's something that's a job you wouldn't think of a paramedic sort of fitting into. You know, like you said, there's no IV starting on livers and corneas. you know, so
But yeah, I feel, and listen, and the ones I'm speaking to, because I do see them, I know them personally. They are very happy to be doing this work. They are thrilled to be making a living wage, and
yeah,
they are not staying away from their EMS heritage. They're doing that too.
yeah.
How cool. Wouldn't it be
Well,
nice if they could do that, saving a whole person,
yeah.
taking care of an intact person?
Well,
We
I'm
got
gonna
some
end it
people
there.
writing us.
Dave, I'm gonna end it there because there's a couple of things that came
Okay.
up today, and I don't want to get into these. I'm just typing a quick note for next time because I think there's some
Yeah.
things, subtopics of what we talked about today that I think would be interesting to kind of go a little deeper into. So I don't want to get too deep into that today. We've been going about 30 minutes now, so I want to just kind of cut it off there. But I would like to, if anyone's listening, do me a favor, please put a comment somewhere on wherever you're watching this. It could be YouTube, Facebook, wherever on the blog itself, and let us know what you think about what we talked about today. And I did start charging a fee, Dave, for the podcast.
Did you?
Yeah. The fee is pretty much just go tell somebody else about the show. That's the fee. Just pay us back.
Share it.
We don't get paid for the show. We like coming on here and talking about these topics and maybe bringing some things to light.
Wait a minute. I'm not getting paid?
No. Well, I keep telling you you're going to get paid. I keep telling you, but
I know.
My bank account works.
I thought it was in escrow.
Yeah. Where my saving account work, I can't seem to get the check, so I have to get you on the other side, So hopefully just share the show, let people know about it. We've been doing this for, I don't know, at least 15 years, probably longer.
You're doing it longer than I am, that's for sure.
So love to have more people watching. We have a decent amount of subscribers on iTunes and stuff like that, but actually Stitcher too, but now Stitcher is going bye-bye. So we won't be on that platform any longer. But we are on Amazon, the Amazon podcast. And so, all right, Dave, let's end it there, man. I think we had
I don't want anybody to believe that this house behind me is mine. It's a virtual background.
I know. Dave doesn't have to get paid. He's got a piano in the background and a nice big living room behind him.
Sure.
They're not gonna want to have to, I'm not paying anything. These guys are rich.
Right.
You don't get rich podcasting, I'll tell you that much.
No.
That's for sure. All right, Dave. Thanks for joining me. Anything you want to mention before we go? Any place you're going to be? You want anybody, maybe if they're going to be there to check you out? Or
I mentioned it in the beginning. I don't need to do it again. It's too self-serving.
All right. Well, if you think of anything that, if you're going to be someplace soon, let me know, and I can always put it in the show notes.
I'll be on an ambulance call real soon because that's what I do.
Yeah. Right. They're not going to get rid of your unit where you are.
Not with what they're paying me.
Right, exactly. It's the cheapest one they can get. All right, Dave, that's it, man. Thanks everybody for joining us. As always, I am Jim Hoffman.
And I'm Dave Brenner.
Stay safe.